Hello my friends, this is Marta Crawford. For all of you that don't know me yet, I'm a professional artist who's been painting and drawing for over 25 years. In the last video, I explained what happened in my world in the last year. So I'm in a totally new studio with none of my art supplies, having to gather everything from scratch again. Since I am in a new country, I am trying totally different brands because the brands that I was used to before in the States, here the price is staggering. So for this video, I am trying completely new charcoal pencils. It was only after they arrived and reading the label that I realized the binder is oil. I almost decided not to even bother with it. But I like me some challenges, so I decided to test them with a small drawing in this video, and you'll be the judge of the results. These are all the supplies I'm going to use. Right here is the paper, Strathmore Mixed Media, the 3 charcoal pencils, hard, extra soft, and medium, a sheet of sandpaper to sharpen the pencils, 3 paper stumps, the sharpener to sharpen the pencils, Mono Zero, which is an eraser that has a very fine point. All right, I don't know if you can see it, very fine point, so it will be great for little tiny details. Then an electrical eraser for heavy duty highlights, a little bit of cotton to soften the paper. This is called kneaded eraser because it's very it's very kneaded. Charcoal, short charcoal stick, and piece of vine stick charcoal, mainly for doing the preliminary drawing. If I use anything else throughout the drawing, I will let you know. Alright, so the first thing that I do is I grab a little bit of charcoal and I cut it in a little, like a 1 square inch, and with this I'm going to tone the whole paper very gently. It's vine charcoal and it's soft, very important, because if it were hard it will leave marks on the paper. You don't want that. You grab a little bit of cotton and circular motions, you spread it all over. This is hot press mixed media paper. Since I lost all my art supplies, I have to order everything from scratch, so I couldn't order the charcoals that I normally use, so I got this Cretacolor Nero Deep Black pocket set. It wasn't cheap at all, so I figured that it would do the trick. They're supposed to be charcoal pencils, but they seem pretty hard. This is going to be my reference photo. I took the color off to make it easier. I opened the reference photo on Photoshop and do a grid on it. You can change the grid and make it smaller if you need it. I begin at the bottom towards the right side of the paper because it's the easier point I find, and I work myself outside the contour of the head to quickly place the subject. I have several bumps in my hand because I was bitten a few days ago by processionary caterpillars in a hike we did in the mountains. I have never seen them in action, so I left the hiking poles on the ground to make a video, and when I grabbed the poles, little hairs have been stuck to them, unbeknownst to me, and they poisoned my hands. The left hand was the worst, and it was inflamed for 4 days. These creatures are very active in places where there are pines from February to April. I learned a good lesson here. But I applied some Benadryl on the spot and kept going, being rewarded by great sights like the Iberian mountain goats. I continue using the vine charcoal stick for main features. After I masked in the darkest areas of the drawing, the hair and the shirt. This is my least favorite part because things look very unrealistic. Therefore, I try to get it done as quickly as possible, although not as quickly as it appears on the video. This video is sped up, of course, so you don't die of boredom. I don't want to introduce the drawing pencil yet for two reasons. First one, because I am not exactly sure of the placement. The grid helps, but squares are fairly large and mistakes are bound to happen. And second one, because frankly, I'm still a little scared of these new charcoal pencils. I erased the grid marks with the needle eraser and blended the dark areas with my pinky finger. The little finger is the best blending tool I have. Then I continued darkening the shirt. It's important to emphasize that this is a process. One must tread lightly. It's much better to keep adding pigment or darks than to find yourself having to erase them. So why don't you want to erase? When you erase, you eliminate tooth and freshness in the paper, and this wear will alter dramatically your result. You don't want to make the drawing overwork, so remember, adding is better than subtracting. I continue blending the drawing because I don't want to leave any marks in the paper at this point, and I add still more dark to the shirt and to the hair. Now you can see now how this drawing start taking place, taking form. But it's been a very gradual process. You just have to trust yourself that every stroke will lead you to the nest and so forth. And I'm using the little 1-inch soft vine charcoal because I don't want to get too precious yet. I don't want to be tempted to start putting too many details because the details at this point will ruin the drawing. This is the drawing at this stage before I introduce the charcoal pencils. And a little shot of my studio where you can see the mountains we were hiking the other day. Now is the time to introduce the pencil. And this is definitely my favorite part because it is when the drawing starts coming up alive. And I start with the eye, which is the main focal point, and the eyebrow right above it. I'm using the extra soft pencil, and I am being very, very careful because this pencil is oil-based, and oil-based pencils have a great difficulty in being erased. So if I make a mistake and I have to erase it, then I'll have a hard time. I don't want that. So I thread very, very lightly, and I'm using my cane. You can see it. That's another thing I didn't have in the supplies, but the cane I use it for everything, for all the paintings, and it is to support my hand. I don't want to lay my hand on top of the drawing because then I'll smear it all out. So the cane is great because it's a wooden cane and it wraps around the top of the easel, so I can move it gently with my hand and it always stays put. Whereas the mud stick or traditional mud stick, you have to support it with the left hand and you don't have the left hand free. So I strongly suggest that you get yourself a regular walking wooden cane if you still don't have one. I continue adding more shading to the face, especially continue with the main focal point, which is the right eye, the nose, and the eyebrows. And I am going just slightly harder in present, but still what you need to practice the most is the control, because if you apply too hard again and you are too dark, then erasing may be a problem. So do it in small stages. And the pencil that I'm using is the extra soft, and I test them all, and the other ones, the medium and the hard ones, they are way too hard. So I basically stay the whole time with this extra soft pencil that I found it anything but soft. I achieved the results that I wanted just by being very, very light with it. If I had the regular pencils that I use on other drawings, I could have been a lot more generous and go a little harder on them. But since I didn't have them, I wanted to stay in the side of caution. So I'm continue adding more pigment to the lips and to the hair. And for the hair, I use again my 1-inch vine charcoal. For some reason, I always like that size, the 1-inch size, because it's small enough to whether it doesn't get all over the place, and large enough to avoid being too precious and laying out too many details. I apply a little bit of pigment on the background too, and I blend it with my finger. And one thing that I noticed is you can still see a little bit of the grit marks on the background, so I may have to go again with it and blend it in to avoid them. I'm going again in the eye and the hair, and I continue to blend with my little pinky finger, and I use a little bit of the Mono Zero eraser to lift up some of the pieces of the paper that got stained. Some of this oil charcoal got stuck to the paper in wrong places that made it look like she had freckles. So the Mono Zero is great for that, because it can get into very tiny spaces, whether the knitter eraser is too fat. So you can see how I'm doing it on the chin too, in the chin area, just to clean it up a little bit more. And the drawing is start to take shape. I'm working on the nose now. The nose, I find it to be very important because it's right in the middle of the page. It's like ground zero or mile zero. And if you make a mistake in the nose, very quickly your model will look completely different. You can see that people that decided to have rhinoplastias, for whatever the reasons, they don't look the same after that. It looks like they look like completely different people. So some actors actually have lost their career for doing that, for doing rhinoplastia. So it's very important that you take your time to get the shape of the nose right, because you can get away a little bit with the mouth and the eyes and everywhere else, but if you make a tiny mistake in the nose, then you make your model into somebody else. Charcoal is a wonderful medium to explore because its smudging and shading techniques closely mimic painting. Another big advantage of charcoal over pencil is that it prevents you from getting lost in tiny details too early. That way you keep the overall structure in view. Because charcoal is highly smudgeable and tactile, we artists often feel that the process is a direct transfer of our emotion to the paper. If you want to draw better portraits, there are many methods online to guide you through it. And I introduce you to some in my other drawing videos that I encourage you to watch. But the most important thing is that you get started and maintain your motivation by drawing as much as you can. At the beginning, we must be confident. But as we progress, it's important to remain humble. This humility will ensure that we continue learning. Don't fall into the trap of being too humble to start or too confident to keep learning. No method can rival true observation. It is by deeply observing your subject that you start seeing relationships and comparisons clearly. Where do the bottom of ears fall in relationship to nose? How many eye widths can we find in the forehead? Is it a low set nose, high set, etc.? Learning to draw is just learning another language, and this language is called seeing. We all go through life looking at things, but are we truly seeing them? As I develop the drawing and add more details, I am trying to be vigilant not to overwork it. A certain level of freshness will add interest to the drawing. So I made the executive decision to leave the hair rough with no extra details and did the same with the shirt, showing the pencil lines clearly on the collar. As I am approaching the end, I am wondering what I truly think about these new charcoal pencils and the Verde Design. I like them, but I do not love them. They're not as creamy as the ones I used in the past, so I'll keep looking and searching until I find something I'm truly happy with. Just remember that the pencils are just tools. The real work is in the mind. I wholeheartedly believe that if Michelangelo only had a broom to paint, he would still have painted the Sistine Chapel. In this video, I am showing you the grip method to achieve accuracy. But this only works with photographs. There are other methods like the plumb and level technique that can be used when working from life with real models. Working from direct observation is a great way to develop your ability to see, and I encourage you to do it whenever possible. However, do not despair if photographs are all you have. There are many purists out there that shun the use of photographs and consider it nothing short of blasphemy. Do not pay attention to them. That can stifle your creativity and paralyze you. Use what you have at hand and ignore the naysayers. The most important thing is to develop your own style and draw the way you want to draw and how you see the world, because who's to say? As I am approaching the end, I keep adding more pencil and more darks, and this is definitely my favorite part. I love it because I feel that I've earned it, but you must be very cautious and make sure, like I said previously, to wait until you really dark with the pencil. And right now, as you can see, I am going as dark as I can possibly master. I'm pressing really hard into the paper and feeling every little bit of holes or textures inside. That is the only way that you're gonna get really dark. And I want that eye to be the focal point. Therefore, the darkest dark is right there and right above it, the eyebrow. And I want to define the shirt a little bit more and play with the hair just a tiny bit to give it a sketch feel. And like I say, I did not define any of those curls because I feel that the suggestion, just suggesting it, is far more interesting that if I were to highlight every single curl. It's not necessary. Just the contour of the head, it tells you about her ethnicity and the beauty of it. So definitely you need to earn this part by being very soft with the pencils up until this point. And actually, you may want to work with graphite for a while, because with graphite you really develop the layers little by little. It forces you, because graphite has a lot of wax and is very hard, so you have no choice but to do so. It's very similar. Working with graphite is very similar as working with watercolor, because the charcoals they don't give you they can get dark really soon, and the lights will be very light by comparison, giving you
a really very short range of values.
If you stick with me until now, thank you so much for watching. And please subscribe and give the video a like so I can post content like this in the future.